James Bennett is an independent solo artist and multi-instrumentalist musician. So in recent years, he's probably been found grasping a Canon camera more so than his Cold Clark guitar, and has really embraced birding as one of his lifetime passions. So James has just finished back-to-back big years. He actually did one in Lake Macquarie in 2023, but he actually spoke about that big year in the February club night last year. And in 2024, he actually stepped it up a level and decided to take on a much larger area, which was all of New South Wales. So tonight, James will regale his record-breaking New South Wales big year. So not just talking about the birds that he found, but also some of the stories and the statistics of his epic adventure. So if you're uncertain what a big year is, I'm sure James will explain that to you.
Hi, my name is James Bennett, if you didn't know already. I did a pretty crazy thing last year. I don't know why, I still don't know why. I'm still recovering from it, and I probably will be for a long time. Some of you were here when I did the Lake Macquarie Big Year chat, and I don't know why I did that either. A big part of it is, as you said, I'm a musician and I play all over the country, and I'm touring around anyway. I'm going to go to these places where these birds are, so it helps a lot. And last year there was a lot of birds I still hadn't seen in this state, so I thought I'm going to go and see them anyway. So a big part of it was that. This is a little bit out of order, but I'm just going to thank a few people very quickly, because I'm doing it at the end, because I think their names pop up during. I'm just going to run them off really quickly. So Mick Roderick, Liam Murphy, Heath Milne, Steve Edwards, David Mitford, Greg McLaughlin, David Parker, Matt Herring, Aaron David, Stephanie Owen, Jacob Crisp, Hans Warmoth, Stephen McBride, John Spicer-Bell, Jeff Jones, Simon Gorder, Andy Robinson, Neil Coral Bruce, Scott Williams, Ian Rees, Silas Darnell, Michael Kearns, Richard and Jodie Webber, Garth Bowen, and Lynn Bennett. So without even just one of those people, I wouldn't have probably got the number that I got last year, and they all played a pretty vital part in giving me tips or helping me with whatever it might have been. So this is the eBird up in New South Wales, and before anyone that's not on eBird, everyone that is probably knows, but before you do any surveys or report any birds in any of the LGAs, it's completely white. So by the end of last year, I'd filled in every single LGA in New South Wales, kind of like a kindergarten birding kind of thing. This is another part of the year that I found pretty interesting. I even drove a few hours out of my way to make that happen. Just silly. Anyway, this is the area that I spent my whole year in last year. Plus, unavoidably, I still hadn't worked out that I was going to do this, so I booked pelagic trips in Tasmania, and I had music commitments in other states, which meant that there were some birds that I couldn't see, unfortunately, but that's the way it goes. So at the beginning, I had already planned a sea mountain trip, which is basically like an 18-hour trip off the coast of Southport down into the coast of Tweed Heads to go and see seabirds from the New South Wales list with a bunch of people. I didn't realise that I would need a lot of those birds for the year, and it was a pretty successful trip. But on my way up, I had already done a trip up for music, so I went up, back, and then back up again. And on that trip, I lucked in to see this barn swallow. I'm going to add now, this is going to be more of a show and tell than anything else. I've got photos, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about all the photos. So barn swallow there, it's quite a tricky bird to get in New South Wales, and I nabbed that pretty early on. And then on that same drive up, I got our friend who lives up at Old Bar. Another bird that sort of, I thought, I'd be silly to not keep going with this big year, having already got quite a few good birds. There's going to be some really ridiculously embarrassing selfies throughout this, and that's fine. That's my ugly face. And Mr. Steve Edwards, who is a good friend of mine, and he currently has the most birds in New South Wales on his life list. And when I say life list, there's life list and year list and lifers, and we all know how that works. And if you don't, I'm sorry. These are some birds from the CMAT trip in January. A lot of birds on that trip I actually didn't see again for the rest of the year, so it was great that trip went ahead. Again, a few petrels. Should I be saying what these birds are? Okay, red-footed booby, white-tailed tropic bird, brown moody, Tahiti petrel, Kermadec petrel, Cook's petrel, Gould's petrel, white-necked petrel. So we fast forward a little bit here. Actually, no, this was the week after I did my first non-seamount trip, so just a regular day trip. And this was at Port Stephens with Mick. I did get a few streak shearwaters on that seamount trip. However, this one showed itself a lot better. The week after this, I still hadn't planned a lot of New South Wales based pelagics. Seabirds are a huge part. If you're doing a big year, they're a huge part of it. You know, there's about 50 or 60 that you almost say you'd be guaranteed to get in a year. And if you don't get those 50 or 60, that's a huge, flaw in your list. So that was really important, but at this point I still wasn't doing a big year. I was just burning like I normally would. And week after this, unfortunately, I've been off Terrigal, which is probably my most regular trip that I do, pelagic wise, and I'd done it every trip basically the year before. I did have a gig up in Queensland that I couldn't make this trip for, but I was starting to feel like there's no good birds coming on that trip, and that's the worst thing to do if you're a pelagic birder. So yeah, I think it was about 3 days after this. Herald petrel was seen off the coast of Stop Celebrating Steph, which Steph saw, yes, give it up. And I didn't, so that made me just go, stuff this. I'm going to book on every pelagic for the rest of the year of everyone that I could still get on off Port Stephens, Terrigal, Yamba, Eden, the ones that we did off Eden, Kiama and Sydney. I booked on to I did about 35, 40 trips, pelagic trips last year. And I would have done more had I known I was going to do a big year. And I was also scarred for not seeing a herald petrel. So this is the pectoral sandpiper, the sharp-tailed sandpiper that again, it was just a year tick at the time. I didn't really think too much else about it. I'd still never seen grey hooker shrikes before. My friend Heath Mill, who was at the time living up at Armidale, had this pair that was nesting on his property that I believe raised 1 or 2 young, which is very cool because it's quite close to the coast, even being Armidale. It was a great life to get last year. Still, at this point, I wasn't doing a big year. This is a little bit bitten in Sydney. I was playing a gig in Wollongong and I'd seen this bird the year before, or one of the 2 or 3 that had been hanging around, and I had come back from the gig at Wollongong. I thought, I'll just drop in and see this bird to get it for a year tick. Turns out I had no idea that the Taylor Swift concert was on. In the Sydney Olympic Park area where the show was, and I spent about 4 hours in traffic. So I saw the bird. As long as you see the bird. So then after that, this was pretty much the big year sparking trip. I played some shows out of Wagga, which is a bit of a regular thing for me. I can kind of go out there a little bit, playing music. And I'd been to Broken Hill and Wentworth and Mildura and all around that area. Not that Mildura is in New South Wales, but that region. I've plenty of times playing music, but never really birded, so there was quite a few lifers out there for me. Red Throat, Rufus Field Wren. Wasn't a lifer, but Hamburglar. Whiteback Swallow. Goofball. So I did this round trip where I thought, I've got a week off, and I'll just go up to Wentworth, Broken Hill, and then via Lake Angelica back to get my things in Wagga. And on that same trip, I picked up a few of these really good key birds, striated grass wren, thick-billed grass wren, southern scrub robin, and pink cockatoo. And then this is where it nearly all came to an end. Going through some people may recognise this train line, but just driving through on the loop back from that trip, I got severely bogged. I have a picture of where I got bogged, but it's too embarrassing to show you guys. Believe it or not, I was in the middle of nowhere with no reception, And you'll see this car a lot in this. I bought this car in December the year before, and this was in March, so I'd only had it 3 months. It was still quite a new car, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to have to leave it out here in the mallee. But anyway, I managed to get this car out of some pretty intense clogging situation by doing something incredibly dangerous, pedal to the metal, and pushing it, and doing this for about 2 hours. Plus shoving a few railway sleepers under the tub. Anyway, it's just a really, really fun part of the trip now. One of my favourite parts. And a good memory, you know, everyone's got to get bogged every once in a while. This is the best photo I took all year. It's probably one of my favourites. I almost didn't want to show you this because I may have had to charge like an entry fee. Gotten some money out of this photo somehow. But does anyone want to have a guess at what that is? You get a Mars bar. Oh, Steph, did you already know that? Or did Mick tell you? Or did you know? Yeah, it's obviously Ben still, right? Anyway, Ben still. 2 of them. And this is like on private land out near Wentworth. Sorry, I did that loop and got bogged, and I went back out to Wentworth like an idiot. Like they were getting reported out there, and I thought I was just there. I'm like, no, that's not happening. I went straight back out there. Anyway, picked those up. And yeah, private land, so I do own a scope, you know, I use my camera because it's got a long lens and I can see basically what anyone else can see through the lens, and I'm very quick with it. That's why I've always just used the camera, but I do own a scope, and my camera was able to take the photo and zoom in and identify them rather than the scope, which was really good in that situation. So I wasn't, you know, with that photo you might say it's anything, but could it be, I don't know. This is straight after I got back. I jumped on another Port Stephens trip, and I remember chatting to Nick on this pelagic when we saw this bird. Steph and Kerry, who some of you probably know, were on the boat, and Kerry needed a bullish shield as a lifer. We're on the way back in, and we'd seen a bullish albatross just before this, and she was like, yeah, but I'd really prefer to see a bullish shearwater. And then, literally as she said that, I was like, that's a bullish shearwater. So that was really cool. And Mick did say to me, you might not see that bird again this year, so it's a good tick to have. And around that same time, Mick took on the role of being my coach for the year. So there's a lot of communication with me and Mick, and I think it's something that Mick's always probably wanted to do, but hasn't really had the time, and maybe he will do one day. But it was, yeah, very enjoyable to have the constant banter and the back and forth about where I should go next, or you know, all that sort of stuff. And so yeah, given I'd done that trip through Wentworth and that, and thought I've seen some good birds, some birds that I might not see if I was, you know, if someone was doing a New South Wales Big Year. It's going to get very niche, but I was doing it, and I wanted to do it, and it'd been back in my mind for a while. I thought if anyone's going to do it, I'm going to do it because I'm, as I said, playing music around the place, and just that sort of a ridiculous human where I'll drive for 7 hours, go home, go, I missed the bird, and drive for 7 hours back to get it. So straight away I thought, right, I'm going to go and get all the nocturnal stuff so I can sleep when I need to sleep. So when I did that, this was around the end of March, and I should mention here that the last day of March I had 330 birds for New South Wales. I need to check that. Yeah. Yep, 330 birds at the end of March. So I thought, looking back at the record from the year before, which was Michael Cool, he had just gotten 446. So keep that in mind. I only needed about 120, 130 birds to break the record with 9 months to go. And I thought, I'm going to do it. So nocturnals, I got barn owl, sooty owl, mast owl, grass owl, all the Tytos, the Ninox owls, barking owl, powerful owl, Google, and not a Ninox owl, but just to fill the gap, Australian owl nightjar. A marbled frogmouth, and these are all out of order, I just put the nocturnal birds all together. Marbled frogmouth, a whather and a nightjar, 20 frogmouth, and a spotted nightjar, obviously out in the valley, you can see by the nice red dirt. So here we're about halfway through the year, and I still hadn't seen a swift parrot in New South Wales. I'd seen them in Tasmania, but not in New South Wales, and it was becoming a New South Wales bogey bird. But as soon as they showed up, again, this was another tip-off from Mick when they had just arrived. I went straight down there. Might have been the day after, actually. I think the day after Steph had seen some of these guys out of the Cessnock, so it was good to get both of those in the one go. But generally, both here around that time of year. Rolling into all the hard, tricky birds. I'm mostly just going to show the hard, tricky birds. So this was a bird I'd only just gotten for New South Wales the year before. Pale-manted bush hen. It's a very, very tricky bird to get, but there is one, maybe two pretty reliable sites in all the New South Wales that you can get them if you're lucky. They're very skulky, secretive sort of bird. You probably all know that. This was the first. Who's that? This was the first. I think it was the first Yamba pelagic I did, which was run by Heath, who's just to the. This is Heath, and this is Liam Murphy, and Darryl Eggins, and some other people, Jacob Chris. I think they did about 6 or 7 pelagics out of Yamba last year and then late the year before. I tried to do every one of them last year, but we were lucky enough that trip to see, again, I think Steph, you were on that trip with the Cape Petrel, and we also had a black-bellied storm petrel. But I've only been seriously birding for maybe 5 or 6 years, really seriously, and ticking birds off the list and all that sort of stuff, but I've heard in previous years that these were a lot easier to get off the coast of New South Wales, but now they're quite a hard bird to get, and especially to have one that far north up in Yamba was pretty special. So a Cape Petrel, or the name's now been changed to Pinkadu Petrel. This was actually, believe it or not, my biggest twitch of the year, and for a pretty common bird. I mean, in Victoria and South Australia, they're pretty common, I'd say. Purple crown lorikeet, but they rarely jump over the border into New South Wales. So this, Mick, what was this eucalypt called? This tree? Do you remember? Maybe river red gum. They were just exploding and flowering like crazy, and there was musk lorikeets and all sorts of parrots. And these guys just came in pretty big numbers. I think it was like 17 hours. For me to drive from my house to Port Macquarie to go and see them, and then 17 hours back. It was pretty silly. But this was my 399th bird for the year. That's pretty cool. Prior to chatting with Mick, I said if I can get to 400, I'll follow through and I'll do all the other ridiculous stuff, but I was doing it either way. Does anyone have the time? How long have I been talking for? About halfway. I'm trying to be really, last time I spoke for way too long. Again, this is a Port Stephens bird. Good birds on Port Stephens last year, like really good birds. So, I was lucky enough to be on a couple of them. I missed one. Pretty good trip. Anyway, this is an Arctic tern that at the end of a very, you'd almost call it a miserable day at sea, we're on our way back, and this bird just out of nowhere just come and followed us basically all the way back into Port Stephens, so the boat gets docked up. Very good bird to get in New South Wales or even in Australia at all, and it was a lifer for me. And bird number 401 for the year.
What was your 400?
Sorry? 400th. I haven't got 400th, but it was between. Oh no, remember it was there was a turbo chook. What is that? Native hen. Like to have native hen. Yeah, because I've just been out to see the purple crown lorikeets, which were at Wentworth, and the native hen. So this was halfway through the year, by the way, and I hadn't seen a native hen, which generally is a pretty easy bird to get out west. And the year before, it was a huge bogey bird for me in New South Wales. But I got one, and unlike when you can see like hundreds of them sometimes
In good seasons, I saw just one. Later in the year, I saw heaps more, but I was really, really excited to see one. This is the only Eden trip that I did last year. We did a double-headed trip off Eden, just as that bit more further for people to drive. We do 2 trips, Saturday and Sunday, normally organised by Steve Edwards, who you saw before. And got some really cracking birds. This greyback storm petrel and the white-chinned petrel were birds that I had seen in New South Wales in other years. But slender-billed prion and the northern royal albatross were, in the one trip, probably some highlights for the year actually, and especially for this little guy to be showing that well. Prions are, anyone that's trying to photograph a prion of any species, they're a nightmare to try and get a good photo of, but this slender-billed prion just hung around the boat for ages. And unfortunately, just while I'm Eden, I couldn't do the second Eden trip because I had music commitments, which was I think in August, and there was 3 ticks of me off that boat that I missed out on, unfortunately. And around that same time, the Sydney trip went out, which had 5 New South Wales, not just ticks for me, but lifers and New South Wales ticks, which I've only regained 1 of those birds. So it's pretty hard to miss that trip, but that's the nature of pelagics. You can do 100 trips in a year, and 1 trip will go out, and that'll be the one that's your lifer on it. And that's just some loose albatross photos. These are probably the rarest, 2 of the rarest birds in the world. No, some tickable plastics that I thought needed to be mentioned because, man, I struggled to find these birds. Every trip out to Wentworth and back and down the south coast and around Goulburn and Cowrose is where these were seen. I looked and looked and looked and looked and looked for these birds with no luck. The year before I had seen tree sparrow and worked out a technique. They were, especially in hot weather, coming down to this guy's bird bath, which is really difficult because when you're walking down residential streets with a camera, especially pointing it into someone's front yard, it's very, I don't know the word, but I made friends with this guy and I actually went up and knocked on his door and said, hey, you've got a bird bath, I think this bird might come and drink here, can I stake it out? And it's exactly what happened when I was staking it out. I was in Goulburn and found these guys. I hadn't been reported in Goulburn for over a year, and I just thought they were gone and just not in New South Wales anymore, or not in the places where they had been seen in previous years. I tried another location that had only had a couple of records of, and now since finding those birds, probably 30 other people have been there and seen that bird, so it's probably the new spot to see that bird in New South Wales. And no, it's just a green finch, but it's another bird on the list. And yeah, that was about a 6-hour stake in front of someone's house to see that little guy. So this is one of many trips I did out to Gundabooka, Cobar, sort of Bourke area. I saw so many birds that it was hard to choose the best ones or best photos or whatever, so I put a couple in there. I think I had about 7 flat tyres during the year, so I had to include a flat tyre photo. Painted honeyeater was a lifer. I don't remember who took that photo, but it's me pointing out at the little lookout at the end of the walk where these slatyback thornbills had been found only 2 years prior, maybe 1 year prior, which was a new bird for New South Wales. No one knew that they were in New South Wales at all. I made mine Tobias found those. I don't even know what he's doing out there. Do you know what he's doing out there? Anyway, he found them. This was at Gundabooka. It's kind of sandwiched between Bourke and Cobar National Park down in there. That's the habitat there. So yeah, there's plenty of chestnut rock thornbills and inland thornbills that can confuse you out there with this bird, but I went out there with John Spicy Bell the year before because we thought maybe it might be a one-off, and now I've since seen that bird in that location 4 times. I thought that bird would get more of a reaction, While I was out of Gundabooka, I had put my name down for so many pelagics and just couldn't get on every trip. But I told another mate of mine, David Mitford, who I thanked at the start, I said, if anyone pulls out of any trips, please let me know first. And he knew that what I was doing, and he knew that at the first available spot that I could get for any boat, that I was just going to go for it. And he called me, and I was out of Gundabooka, and he said, we got a spot on the Sydney boat, someone's pulled out, and I thought, oh man, it was a huge drive, and it was kind of midday, and I had to drive all through the night really to get there, and I thought it could have just, very well could have been just an ordinary trip, but we saw this Atlantic yellow-nosed albatross, which is, I don't even know what to say about this bird, but it's incredibly rare for New South Wales and Australia overall. Like I think there's less than 10 records of this bird being in Australia.
They don't even see them in Western Australia.
Yeah. And I think the most impressive part about this bird is that 3 pelagics went out and saw this same individual within a month. So it was and there was a bird seen the year prior that believed it's the same bird. So I don't know what the story with it is, but it's pretty loyal to the coast of Sydney. And then I saw, we've seen 3 times in a month, and I was on another one of those trips that saw it again. So I've seen that bird twice in 1 year, which is pretty stupid. And then while I was on the boat, I was thanking Dave and saying thank you. The one we saw of Terrigal, actually, the albatross, it didn't show as well as that bird, and that bird could have almost just went and give it a little pat. But the Terrigal bird was a little bit further distant, so I was really, really lucky to be on that Sydney trip to get those photos I got. But while I was thanking Dave, we were sort of saying, oh, what other birds have you got to get? The Atlantic yellow-nosed albatross was 437. I sort of getting to that point again because, in a year there's about 500 and something sort of get seen, and most people end up around that record, which is 446. He said, some vagrant shorter migratory bird, like maybe a Hudsonian godwit. And I don't know if I took what he said pretty literally and went on and looked for Hudsonian godwit records, but I'd seen one of these pointers laying near South West Rocks, I think it was a year before, and I had a show in Coffs Harbour, and I got straight off the boat in Sydney. That's why it was even harder to make the call to do that Sydney trip, because the next night I had to play a gig in Coffs Harbour. And for whatever reason, I stopped in a Voyagers Lane, and there was this Hudsonian godwit. And just been talking about it. So in 2 days, I'd seen these 2 Australian mega birds, and a huge highlight for the year. Really, everyone here's probably seen this guy just over there, but I never did see that bird, so it wasn't on my New South Wales list at all. And one had been recorded at the wetlands. What's it called? Thanks, thank you, Jeff. And I tried 3 times, I think, with this bird. Each time borrowing a key from a mate, because you need a key to get in there, which I didn't have. But on the 4th time, I think I got a key from Steve, who's a Byron local and a pretty nice guy. Birds found a lot of really cool birds over the years. Let me his key, and I got there because it'd been seen the afternoon before. But the first thing in the morning, and the key wouldn't work. And I was like, nah, stuff it. I won't worry about this bird again. Like, it caused me way too much trouble. And a lot of trips, like, you're going to realise I drove all the way to get a duck, and then come home with nothing. It was pretty hard. Someone had come. Steve actually came to meet me there because he thought it might have been user error, and I wasn't. He's like, no, you're doing it all wrong. Anyway, he came, and I was like, see, it's not working. Got out of bed for nothing. And a guy had just jumped over the fence. He goes, yeah, the bird's not there. And I was like, jump over the fence? He's like, well. And Steve left, and it was like, oh, if you jump over the fence, mate, I won't jump over the fence in the birds. I was like, oh, all right. And at that point, I seriously was just going to turn around and have a look at Flat Rock, which is good for waders, and maybe find something else, but I thought, no. and I walked around and I didn't see the bird at all. So walking back, and I'm just like, because there is like a water path, and it's just on this little rise. And as you can see, sitting on the edge of one of these ponds there, I went up and just crawled up and just sort of peeked over into the thing, and this duck was just sitting here. And I'm like, yes, so good. And then I just sat there and watched it for a while, and it actually flew a few times and landed there for that photo. So now we get to Sturt. Actually, this is probably halfway now. So there was a few trips that I really needed to do. Sturt, obviously Lord Howe's included in New South Wales list. It actually has the same postcode as Port Macquarie. So unfortunately I had to go to Lord Howe Island. Sturt and lots of pelagics and a few other little trips in northern New South Wales again. But this trip I did was a really memorable trip, and probably one of the biggest birding specific trips I've done in New South Wales in terms of how long and where we went. And I got to go with John Spicer-Bell and Mick Roderick, which was just a treat because they're two really great birders and with a lot of knowledge, and we had some great times, some crazy times. This is John Spicer-Bell. I think we were looking for Gibberbird, and this is Mick photographing his lifer inland offshore, and you can see that. I actually posted this photo to Facebook, and someone said your photos are getting really bad, like they're really blurry. And I said no, that's the subject, and it's just got Mick's sort of, you can tell that's Mick. And then that's the homestead at Mount Wood that we stayed at. I actually unfortunately had to go back out there again because I missed a few birds. But on this trip, we got a bird that I never saw again that year, which makes a lot of sense, a grey falcon, which is, that's a bird that I don't know, I say it's about a lot of birds, but I genuinely never thought I would ever see that bird because, I don't know, desert sort of habitat is, I like it, but it's just, it's too hot, man. It's too hot. It's good after the fact and you can look at the photos, but I don't do well with the hot. So, yeah, and that bird, we all had our eyes open looking for that, and things like leadwing cod. Just never expect to see that. Actually, properly slammed on the brakes, could have killed everyone because I saw that bird. It was just perched in a tree sort of halfway up this tree. I mean, the tree was only this high, and the bird was back here. I come around the corner and I was driving and I just went. And this Subaru that I've got, it doesn't have a handbrake. If it did, I probably would have put the handbrake up, but it's got one of those little buttons. So I couldn't do a handbraking, but yeah, I think I got out of the car while it was still moving. And I had my camera on my lap, and if I didn't have my camera on my lap, we probably wouldn't even have a proof. These are the trials and tribulations of the desert. What have we got? So the first photo there is Mick really smartly brought these little chocolate liqueurs. Every tick that we got, we'd have a little, they were all labelled and they were really cool. That was a special part of the trip that I really enjoyed. But a part of the trip I didn't enjoy at all was when my steering rack decided to make noises. It's still making noises actually to this day. But this is me. I didn't know Mick took that photo, but sent to me afterwards. I thought it was pretty cool to have that memory of me just trying to diagnose what was wrong with the car. Not that I could have fixed it out there in the middle of nowhere, but I tried. And then this is one of the many jerry can. Yeah, it's flat. Jerry can filling things. After my steering rack decided to die, we were going to go out to Narriara to look for a grey grass wren, a blue parrot, things like that. But it's 3 hours in the middle of nowhere with no reception, and if things had gotten worse with the car, we would have been stuck in there for potentially, we could be still out there. So we had to make a really important decision to either try and go out there and just risk it, or to move on and just bird in places where there was sort of more people around, we could still get some birds. So Mick, with his amazing connections and I owned a lot for this, was able to get us into Scotia Sanctuary, Wildlife Sanctuary, where there's, some really cool birds, e.g. malleefowl, which was a bird that I hadn't seen and was really eager to see. Australian grass wren, which you can just see there hopping across the road. That's me and John, and then again this was on our way to go out. I think that was on the way to Scotia. We were thinking, yeah, we're back on the road.
Where's Scotia?
So it's in the southwest of New South Wales, kind of just north of Wentworth, right in that bottom zone. Yeah.
I was going to say, because Malifaux not going to Tubamara, so it has to be somewhere else.
And then it's crazy how hard they are to get in New South Wales. You know, I've been around Dylan or many heaps looking for them, and apparently they're out there, but I've just never had any luck. And obviously a lot easier in Victoria and South Australia, but New South Wales is. I mean, Steve that I showed you earlier only got his not life, but New South Wales Malifaux last year. And he's been doing it forever, well, than I have. I actually wrote this in the sand while we were sitting there waiting for a Malifaux to rock up. It might have been, I probably shouldn't have done that. Maybe if I didn't do that, we would have seen the bird, but I think we were there for 3 days? 3? Yeah. And didn't see a Malifaux until the last day. So it made us wait, and we were driving out. A lot of Scotias, I'd love to talk a lot more about Scotia, but I don't have time. But Scotia's got these massive big fenced off sections, stages they call them, 1, 2 and 3. It might even be a 4th one, yeah, 4. And they've just got these crazy big predator-proof fences. So, and they've got a lot of native mammals that they're trying to rehabilitate and things like that. Populations of those mammals, and obviously protect the birds that are in there, like Malifaux and Australian grass wren. So there's these big fence lines that you just follow all the way through there. So it's definitely not a zoo, just in case you're thinking that might be a zoo. I actually saw this maybe that afternoon. I have no idea, but this Malifaux, I just needed one bird to break that 446 record, and that was the bird. And Mick had scribbled this in the back of the window of my car, and I think intentionally wanted me to just find it. And I saw that and I thought, yeah, that's very, very cool. We celebrated with a chocolate. And then so another sort of constellation bird, again, I tried maybe, I reckon, more than 10 times on my own to find a plains wanderer in New South Wales. And a lot of people just go and book that tour, and it's something I never wanted to do. I dipped on a little penguin last year because I didn't want to pay someone to show me a little penguin. I wanted to find it myself. So I had these strong morals, and now I really regret it. But I didn't want to miss Plains Wanderer because that was a lifer. And again, Mick and his connections with Dave Parker, we were actually able to go and join him on one of his surveys for free. To see Plains Wanderer. So, was there anything you want to add to that, Mick? Because I don't just want to be. No? Anyway, that's Mick. He thought he could find a Plains Wanderer before nightfall. He didn't succeed. And that's him dipping that afternoon. But sure enough, there's that little guy. Yeah, just a very, very special bird and an incredible New South Wales tick. And yeah, a lot of why how the reroute sort of made sense, Scotia, and up through sort of the Deniliquin area, and then again up to Round Hill sort of area. And I was able to round off the tally, but that was my 450th bird, Red Lord Whistler. Even though it wasn't a beautiful coloured male, at that point we were all just tired and ready to go home, and we could have waited all day for to find see. But anyway, that was a tick. Let's go, awesome, let's go. But stoked to finally see that. It was a lifer as well. And this brings me to Lord Howe. Again, I was very lucky with some friends and contacts with this one. A lot of you may know or have heard of Liam Murphy, who is currently the ranger over in Lord Howe Island, a good friend of mine about my age. When I first got into birding, I had no idea who Liam Murphy was. And then when he found the Lucian terns at Old Bar, I, for whatever reason, bumped into him somewhere, and I soon realised that I used to play music with him in Paul Macquarie with a sort of a big mutual friend group and had no idea. So we were already prior friends without knowing it. And he let me stay with him on board Howe for a week while I did all this crazy stuff. So that's flying in on the plane for Port Macquarie, and this is Liam here. This is sort of typical flesh-footed shearwater habitat where they nest and make a lot of noise. And I thought that was pretty cool to get Liam under the big tree. Red-tailed tropic birds fly over the mountains there and breed there. I'd seen them on a few flags already, but given that they're on Lord Howe, included the pet. These are the breeding shearwaters that are on the island, and again some of that habitat that the fleshies breed in. The flesh-footed shearwater, it's the wedge-tailed shearwater, and little shearwater. These guys get replaced with black-winged petrels, and given I'd already seen black-winged petrel earlier in the year, I opted to go when the little shearwaters were there, because that can be a very, very hard bird to get just off on a normal day trip. Wouldn't say impossible, but it's a bit impossible. Some terns and noddies. White tern, common noddy, sooty tern, and a grey ternlet. Battery's fine again. Thanks, man. And then the birds I kind of had to go there to get, really. Masked booby, the Lord Howe woodhen, which was never going to fly the rest of the mainland. Although they're probably one in Brisbane at the moment. The song thrush, which is an introduced species, but the only place in New South Wales you can see that bird, and a white-bellied storm petrel, which. And then, so I came straight off, flew back into Port Macquarie, and I'd been looking for barred filtry strikes. They've been pretty reliable in Port Macquarie at the right time of year. I got straight off the plane and drove, not home, but to the place where I don't know the name for it at the moment, but the historic gardens, whatever, Port Macquarie, and got out of the car and there was a barred filtry right there straight away. So got onto that and then drove straight from there up to Tweed Heads, where I dipped on shining flycatcher a bunch of times, but eventually got onto that. That was my 462nd bird, and a very difficult bird. And there's only one known spot in New South Wales that bird can be seen, and it was the second time I've ever seen that bird in New South Wales. First time that year. We're getting there. So this is Sturt, the second time round. I missed banded whiteface, grey grass wren, Aryan grass wren, busted, buzzard. I think I had a list of about 7 or 8 birds, and I only really wanted to go out there once. I didn't mind going out there a second time, and I'm sure Jeff Jones and Stephanie Owen didn't mind going out there either. These photos are all taken by Stephanie Owen, who's at the back of the room there. Takes some beautiful photos, and I'm really grateful that she was able to capture these sort of behind the scenes shots of Jeff and I as we were sort of wandering around aimlessly dipping on the grey grass wrens. We never saw grey grass wrens. It's still a bird that I have to go back out there and get, unfortunately. Wasn't without a lot of effort. But I think we were sort of rewarded in a way with a different bird, which was this guy. We were the morning we went to go and look for the grey grass wren. We were going up this road in the middle of nowhere, had Venza maps open with dot points like every 20 metres, so we didn't get lost, because there's so many roads that just go so many different ways and they're all dirt roads, and no one's going to help me get lost. So I stayed up almost all night just putting dot points every 10 metres so we could find our way back. I was really worried about getting lost. And maybe 2.5 hours into the drive, we were slamming on our brakes for silly things. We never saw a black-shouldered kite that whole trip, except when we got back into the hotel, which was crazy, because people were giving like, oh no, black-shouldered kite, oh no, black-shouldered kite. There was a report of one letter-winged kite finding him out where we were staying, and we thought there could be a loose chance that we could see leatherwings, so you always got your eye open out there. But it was still very, very dark, and we saw a tree full of these silhouette, llamas type things, and I've never seen so many black shoulder cuts in my life. And again, we did the slam on the brakes and get out, and as soon as I took a photo and looked at the back of it, I just saw that black stripe on the underwing, and I was like, they're all leatherwing kites. We got a few photos there. We still had great grassland on our eye, but it's so hard to continue up to look for another bird when you've got 18 leatherwing kites just flying around. It was just wild. Actually, all three of us burst into tears. It was pretty outrageous. And it's not a lie. We were properly crying and hugging each other. Again, that's another bird I just never thought I would see in my life. Just some more little, scenery. There's Steph there. When we looked at the area of grass range, sorry, I've kind of jumped the gun, but in that last slide there was an area of grass range. Was it? Can we get back? Sorry, this one. Yeah, sorry. It's understandable, but area of grass range, which is Steph got a way better photo of that bird, but we only saw it pop up once, and then it was gone, and then it was 70,000 degrees, and we had to leave, and then just went showing again. There's another bird we went back to get after dipping on the grey grumps, and we thought we'd give this one last crack, and we got lucky. Banded whiteface. Is that right, Ben? Yep. Ben. I don't know why. There's so many birds, right? And a black crescent buzzard. Yeah. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So this is a gibbon bird, a young one that I was able to crawl on my belly. As you saw, Steph got that photo of me before. Got upgraded photos of that. Very, very cool birds. So happy to see those. They exist on this gibbon habitat. It's just rock basically, which is crazy. Yeah, Steph in the distance when we're looking for area grass rat. They love these sand dunes. Had a lot of trouble with that bird, but I'm not going to get into it. And then Jeff again at the corner.
Don't forget the planting cod.
And the cracker cod, sorry. We're nearly at the end, guys. We're getting there. Thank you for being patient. That was only some of the leatherwing kites. I think counted 11 in that photo. But just from where these dead trees are here to if you sort of pan to about here, there was a tree that was full of leaves, like a green, whatever tree it was. But when we came back from dipping on the great grassland, we actually drove past because we couldn't see them. We're like, oh, yeah, we're going to see that again. And we drove past maybe 5 k's because they were all in this tree, and they were right in the tree. They weren't on the outside of this tree, they were right in there. So it was lucky that I'd saved the GPS point, and we got, we backtracked, and then found that they all flew out of the tree and into this dead tree. So we spent maybe an hour there with them, photographing and just losing our minds. And then on the way home from that trip, you probably saw, or you did see Big scribble on the back window. When I broke the record, it was 4:47. And I only saw this last night when I was putting these photos, so that was 4:74 at the end of this trip, which was kind of a weird coincidence. So I like numbers and things like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. Little wood swallow, which I was dipping on, a bit hardcore dipping on little wood swallow all year. Finally got that, and just one bird too. It's amazing how many times, like a bird that can be pretty easy, little penguin. And some bustards, which gave us a lot of trouble as well. I actually have Jeff Jones to thank for that, because we drove up and down this road so many times, and Jeff's in the back, he just goes, "What's that?" Got it. So thank you, Jeff. Got back, got straight on the boat at Turrigal. New Zealand Storm Petrel. Another bird I never thought I'd see. A week or two later, another New Zealand Storm Petrel. So those were both taken off the Turrigal boat within 2 weeks, I think, and different birds too. Aleutian tern, which is a bird that at the beginning of the year I wasn't doing a big year, so they'd all left, and I was waiting until they came back. I was checking. They generally come back at the end of October, and I checked just about every day. Aleutian tern, 478 that bird was. This is a bit out of order, but thread bow can be well, I think he is basically the only place reliably in New South Wales you can see a pink robin. And I just tried at the start of the year to see that bird just for my New South Wales list, not for the big year, because I didn't know I was doing it. But yep, got on to him. That was actually at the start of November, so he's a little bit out of order. I had a second seamount trip booked for December, and a lot was hanging on that. You know, there's so much potential out on the seamounts to see, you know, mega rarities, you know, things like collared petrel and herald petrel, bear rump storm petrel, Matsadera storm petrel, all this stuff. Some of them which I'd seen the year prior on the seamout trip, and I was hung up on this trip thinking this is going to be so good. I didn't even get a year to. 3 days at sea on this boat, which leaves out of Southport. Ended up just being a really good catch up with mates. $1,500 catch up with mates. And that was just an upgraded photo of the black belly petrel, which was the highlight of the trip. We're coming to the end now. This is right at the end. This is me dipping. But I was sent this photo by Meryl Newton, who, Meryl's last name's Newton, right? Yeah. Who was looking for this lesser frigate bird that had been seen on the Central Coast. Records come through all the time up in Ballina and, you know, Tweed Heads area, you know, but they're just not twitchable. People see them fly over and they keep going, and they're just not twitchable. But this bird that was seen in the afternoon was seen the next morning. Archie and Jim, saw the bird, and I thought, well, it's hanging around, so I drove straight around after they saw the bird, which from Port Macquarie is a 3-hour drive. Got there, and Dan McKean was there, and I walked straight up onto the rocks, and he goes, yeah, it just flew over the rocks. And I stood there, and 6 hours later, the bird still didn't come back. And I thought, you're joking. And I was really gutted. That photo wasn't taken then, but we'll talk about it in a minute. On the way home, so I got down there about 10:30, maybe 10:30, 11 or something like that, and the bird was now seen again. Made the call to leave at about 4:30 sort of thing. Still after Painter's Night at that point, and had seen them the year before at Bulletin Crescent Swamp just up the road here, and I thought, why not just go and try and see if they were there. Got out of the car, walked up to that little platform, and then just there they all were. There was just 8 of them right there, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. Amazing, and I spent probably 2 or 3 hours by myself. I called Nick actually, who lives just around the corner, and we got to sort of experience that together, which was pretty special. And the first time we got to catch up after Sturt. And yeah, lots of birds when I saw those birds. Kept going home, and of course someone saw the frigate bird again the next morning. And I thought, no, I can't. This is getting towards the end of the year. I'm struggling for a tick. I got to do it. I drove straight back down. I ended up doing 12 hours for that bird of driving, and I never saw it. And that's me sort of, I know, I'm guessing it's around 3 o'clock in the afternoon maybe, and I saw Meryl there, and she sneakily took that photo going, sucked in, you can't get them all.
Did you see anything?
And I didn't even see a shearwater, like there was just no birds around.
No one was sitting now?
I don't even think that was a silver gull. That's how miserable it was. Maybe a cormorant, I think. Anyway, I sat on those rocks, and I think I still have the dents in my butt from that rock. But, you can see I've just got a slight grin on my face, like this is a joke. Why am I doing this? But then it all, so that was my biggest dip of the year. There were so many other birds, like even grey grasser, and yeah, it was a dip, but I didn't go down, then home, and then down, and that was just felt ridiculous. Plus, foolish me let everyone know that I was dipping the whole time, and everyone was laughing at me. It was crazy. Pretty cool. So this is the last Kiama trip, possibly the last Kiama trip ever. In December, at the end of December, I did a few Kiama trips. I don't think I got any ticks on any of the Kiama trips, but this one went out and actually, without knowing, I bumped into a mate, Max Breckenridge, a few of you may know him. Only halfway out to there was this little buoy thing, and I was on this side of the boat, he was on that side, and we're heading out, and he just yelled out, "Sooty turn," and I almost didn't even raise the camera. I was like, I've seen so many sort of ignored hours, emails, I've seen whatever, I wasn't even going to get up. You got to remember, I was so tired at this point. Just about every single day I went somewhere else, and yeah, so I sort of got up just enough to see it fly off the buoy and get this photo. I think I got 3 photos. 2 of them are in focus, and I was able to pick out the white sort of supercilium eyebrow sort of thing, which made this a bridal term, which was a bird that we were looking for on the seamount trips and up north. Steve Edwards, I mentioned before, still hasn't got that for New South Wales, so and this was actually, I did the ORAC submission for that the next day, and I just got the results back two days ago, which has been accepted. So as the 9th record of the bridal term in New South Wales. So it was good to have one ORAC bird although I got some mega Australian birds, one ORAC bird which I did the submission for, which was cool. Again, with mixed contacts, I was able to go out and see. This was a huge bogey bird for me. I'd been to Hexham Swamp and out near Bleaton and Griffith and everywhere looking for this silly guy. And with mixed contacts, I was able to get permission to go onto some private land, again for free. I didn't pay for this. And had I so never heard one.
Yeah.
Never. I heard plenty this afternoon. Yeah, my body almost exploded at this site. Like there was, I saw probably 4 or 5, but I think I would have heard in my eBird list. I have not listed how many I'd heard, but they were just booming from every direction, and you could feel the vibration. It was pretty overwhelming. This is Australasian Big Year. Sometimes I say Australian. Yeah, what do you say? Well, it used to be brown big. Okay. I think that's a young bird, is it? It looks really fleshy in the face. Yeah. But anyway, a lifer for me, which was really exciting. And so I owe that to Matt Herring, who works with Australasian Bigs. And I couldn't do this without throwing a little rock warbler in there. New South Wales only endemic bird, if you're not counting the wood hen, which is little guy. They're a very cool bird, hey. I had to throw him in there. And then, so I've got 3 highlights, major highlights: Leatherwick Kite, and that Atlantic Yellowmose albatross were the biggest highlights for me. There was a lot of really good birds, but the next bird was a crazy bogey bird for me. I'd done one last trip. It was 2 days before the end of the year. I went up to Tweed Heads area to try and see a superb fruit dove, which I did get. One of only 2 birds that I didn't get a photo of. This is a sort of a photographic big year. I got a photo of it, but you can't ID it from the photo. But I've included it because I knew what it was, and I heard calling and I recorded the calling. So I got a superb fruit dove, and then there was a record of the semi-palmated plover in, was it Gladstone? Bundaberg. Yeah. Somewhere in Queensland that's, north of Gympie. And it was showing itself to a lot of birders, and I had to toy up whether to get this Australian mega or to keep going with the big year. I still hadn't seen a rufous scrubbird. I'd heard them and I'd never ticked it off my life list. I could have stepped on one. I've had one right there calling really loudly, and I never got eyes on it, not even seen a feather. So it was really frustrating for me. So I had this real love-hate relationship with rufous scrubbird. So I kind of didn't even want to see it. It's like, stuff it. And so it wasn't too hard for me to say, no, I'm going to go for the semi-palmated plover, and luckily I saw it. And the deal I made with myself was, if I see it, I'm going to drive straight back to Water Ranges National Park, which I've never tried to look for rufous scrubbird before, to try for it on the very last day of the year, which was it was probably 10 hours driving after seeing that bird and spending the whole morning driving up there to get to the spot to see it early in the morning on the very last day of the year. And so I got up that morning, slept in the car, got up that morning, and started I'm out of breath. Went down this track where they had been quite a few records, just like lost the tops. And I'm just thinking I'm just going to hear this bird maybe and not see it. But exactly 7 o'clock in the morning. Dan, help me out, Dan. Oh, sorry, mate. Oh, you got this one. Which was, I don't think you could ask for a better photo of the Rufous scrub birds. I battled with this bird for so long, and it was just one of those things where, to top off a ridiculously emotional year a lot of the time, I was so tired, and I'm still tired now, recovering from it, all the driving and all the mental, constant messages, this bird's here and that's there, and it was just really hard to try and make it all make sense and work it out, and to miss certain birds and to get other birds. It was just a pretty special moment. Again, that was the second time last year that I cried, but that time there was no one around, so it was cool. Yeah, and I sat with it. What you probably can't see from that photo is anyone that's seen a Rufous scrub bird and seen the way that they sort of move around. And I was sort of positioned near this tree, sort of trying to hide myself. It sat up on this log for, I didn't even, gone. And I was just so lucky that I got that one shot, and everything's relatively in focus. It's grainy as hell, but just to get the photograph, it was just the best way I could have ended the year. So another funny thing I found when putting all this all together was the very first bird I saw was a Rufous Fantail. The very last bird I saw was a Rufous. This is what I ended up with. So the year list was 483, broke the record by almost 40 species. Brought my life list to 496. In a whole year, 73 with New South Wales ticks and 50 lifers. Finn. Thank you. Thank you.